When you look at sort of the future of the country, it's very difficult to imagine because America's never experienced it. The possibility of like an actual split country. I shouldn't say that. We almost experienced it during the Civil War, obviously, but since the Civil War, we've not really experienced the possibility of a serious split country or a real foreign invasion since 1812. And so, what exactly would a decline of America look like? I mean, you can see how America would decline economically. That would be very easy to foresee. You could see the freedom of the seas that essentially the U.S. Navy guarantees going away as the world fragments. You could see the sort of issues that we've seen in the Red Sea, but expanded into the Taiwan Straits. You could see a breakdown in global economics if China were to blockade Taiwan and interrupt the superconductor market. Or get Taiwan to pass over the more sophisticated microchips to China, thus upgrading their military. In other words, world fragmentation you can see, but what does that look like in terms of America domestically? How does that exacerbate internal divisions 150 years from now when people are writing the history of the United States and they say, well, here's what they should have seen coming if it was inevitable. Here's what it was looking like. What do you see?
Yeah. Well, right now, does anybody believe that the U.S. Navy has the power or the confidence to sail into some of the major waterways? I don't think that we're going to send a fleet through the Red Sea. I think we feel it's off limits. I think the Eastern Mediterranean coast off Lebanon, we don't want to get near. I think this administration does not want to put a fleet in the Straits of Hormuz. No one would dare go up into the Black Sea and sail around. It would be too dangerous. So already there's areas that our enemies have said, if you come in here, you would be attacked or it would be and you're too risk averse. And we're going to provide enough risk so you'll be averse to taking them. And when you look at the finance, I mean, Israel has an Iron Dome. Trump talks about we need an Iron Dome, and we do need a sophisticated, but do we have the money even to do it? And that gets back to Libby's warning that when the medicine is worse than the malady, you're into permanent decline. I mean, can you really imagine people either raising taxes or cutting entitlements so that we could build a sophisticated air defense system against, say, North Korea or Iran that sent missiles? I can't. I think people would say you're either heartless or you can't do that. And one of the things that always what happens is with decline, it happened in Rome across the Danube and the Rhine, is that you have this idea that you're in decline and there are vigorous people on the other side of the border. And maybe if you just destroyed the border and they came in and they got a whiff of your superior culture, or in the case of late Rome, Christianity, then they would become kind of an infusion of dynamism. That's kind of the American creed about legal immigration, but it depends on assimilation, integration, and that can't happen unless the numbers are very small and the host is very confident. So when we let in 10 to 12 million people, and we think that they're going to work really hard, or they're going to make us compete with them, and they came from the poorest, most god-awful place, I don't think that's going to happen. I think what happens at this late stage, they get on entitlements or they commit crimes, and they have no respect for any society that would let them in. And that's a good sign of a decline, that you don't have a defensible border. And the reason that you don't is you have the wherewithal, but you think that you need an infusion of dynamism because you're a static, inert, ossified, calcified society. And that happened a lot in antiquity and the Middle Ages. The other thing is, there is this growth of I know it's a tired word, administrative state, but if you look at the number of people who were permanently occupied at Versailles in the last years of the Bourbons, 15,000, or under Philip II at the apex, and then the quick decline of the Spanish at the Escorial, 7,000 people. You look at the Kremlin and the Soviet Union, 10,000 people. And we have these judge, jury, and executioner people, whether it's Francis Collin and Fauci or Mayork, all these unelected people, and they're exercising a degree of power that vastly exceeds a congressperson or a senator's, and their only allegiance is to the ideology that created the administrative state and perpetuates it. And it's almost as if it's like a coup that's taken over. And it involves the media and academia and Hollywood and entertainment. And so you wonder how the citizen is going to get back, the dying citizen is going to get back the preeminence of the citizen to say, you know what, we want to get rid of this Department of Homeland Security or Department of Energy or Department of Education just because you're too powerful and you do too much harm. And they can't do it. And that happened to Rome especially. You can't afford it. They can't do it. So just to sum up, when a society knows what it has to do and what's killing it, but is afraid that the remedy would be too controversial or too difficult for the patient to handle, it does nothing. And then the malady or the disease progresses. And I think that's where we are now. Every single person in politics knows we have to start. We could go back tomorrow to Simpson Bowles paradigm that would have had us with a balanced budget and no deficit, 15 years if we had adopted it. We all know what we have to do with the Pentagon. We all know what we have to do with the border. We all know what we have to do with crime. And yet we can't do it because we're afraid of the being labeled a racist or a xenophobe or sexist or transphobe or illiberal or a MAGA semi-fascist, clinger or deplorable or redeemable, dregs, chump, all of those pejoratives that have been used. So we're kind of ossified right now and existing on the fumes of the past. Another thing is very strange about these societies in decline. They don't have a romantic version of the past. You would think that because they think they have extended the glory and they're still constant, they're still Justinian city or they're still Epaminondas of Thebes, but they don't really honor the past. They don't really say we have to live up to what these people did. They have I guess it's a modernist idea that we apply the standards of the modern age to the past and find it wanting, because they surely, when they talk about rejuvenation or restoration, they don't really articulate that we want to be Hannibal City again.
When you look at say a map of the United States, so usually when you look at an empire in decline, the map starts to change pretty radically. You see the Roman Empire shrinking, and then you see it breaking into two. You see the Soviet Empire breaking, and the map changes. When you look at the United States, it's difficult to imagine how the map changes per se in the same sort of way. Obviously, we're very lucky. God has blessed us with extraordinary geography. We have autarkic economic power at a lower level of economic development, obviously, but we have dominance across an entire continent. We have Canadians in our north who are no external threat to us. We have Mexicans in our south who, don't seem to have, they may have infiltrative power in some of the Southwest particularly, but now across the nation, thanks to the drug cartels shipping people across the border. But do you foresee the possibility of a change to the map of America in the same way that there was a change to the map of, say, the British Empire or the Roman Empire or anything else?
Well, it had been conventional wisdom that the salvation of the United States was the Federalist system, the idea that we were not America, we were the United States, and that we had a system. And the left, of course, hates that system where the House was popularly elected and represented the people, and the Senate represented the states. So that, they had 6 years of a term. They had to be older. And, Wyoming, every senator represents 250,000. California, it's 20 million. And that was okay because the senators represented the state and their congressional representatives represented the people. And that would allow the states, if you didn't like something in one state, you could go to another state. There was commonalities, but there was enough respect for state autonomy that each state was experimenting in various degrees with consensual government, more freedom, less taxes, more regulation, et cetera, et cetera. And then that was a safety valve so that the nation didn't explode. However, the problem with federalism is that when people or conglomerate in one geographical area, that becomes a force multiplier, and you create two alternative systems. We saw that in the 1850s with the rise of the idea that even though 1% of the Southern population owned slaves, the other people, and most people suffered from it, both black and white, black certainly, but also white, poor. Nevertheless, there was a larger paradigm that they accepted, that the holy ground of the Confederacy, we don't want to pay for internal improvements, tariffs or killings, all of that stuff. And they created a subculture, the red states, Mason-Dixon, south of it. And that was the only time that had really happened. But today, when we look at things, everybody is self-selecting. And so I think I saw the statistics, 10 to 12 million Californians have left in the last 30 years.
Yep, one right here.
And they go to places that are, yes, they go to Nevada, they go to Arizona, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Texas. Even now, we've got a lot of people going to Alabama. And they do that because the societies work. They don't have deficits. They don't have huge pension programs. The police are trying to fight crime. There's a lot more liberty as far as opening a business, less regulations, etc. And the blue paradigm is not working, and it's collapsing. And yet it inherited the bicoastal media, the bicoastal universities. It has a lot of the CEOs and corporate headquarters. And so when you ask that question, it's kind of scary because under our federal system, it only happened once. But we're starting to see two different societies. When I go to Florida or Tennessee or Texas, and I come back to California or Washington, it's a very different place. I mean, you say to somebody in, I don't know, Arizona, do you watch the NBA? No. Do you watch the Oscars? Never heard of it. Do you ever watch the Tonys or Emmy? Nope. Do you watch NBC, ABC, Network Nerds? Nope. Do you go to a first-run Hollywood movie? Nope. Do you watch late-night comedy on TV? Nope. And what do you know about transgenderism? I don't know anything about it. It's just a monastery of the mind where a whole half of the country has culturally, socially disconnecting. And the thing is that the North always, from the Civil War days, had all of the advantages. They had the industry, they had the capital, they had Wall Street, they had Harvard and Yale, and then they had the West Coast and Oregon. And so you thought that wouldn't be possible. And yet what's happening is you're seeing a red state antithesis that is draining the blue states of all the talent and using the old blue state model in red states. And the red states in some way are more like the North of the 1850s, and the blue states are more like the Confederacy in the sense they're obsessed with one-drop racism in the wokeness. They love to nullify federal laws like sanctuary cities, like they hate the Supreme Court. And I'm very worried about it because all these are force multipliers of differences. And I don't know what, so far, we have these common military, common media, and some, but even that is bifurcating. And I can see a point, and if something doesn't done, the white male rural soldier will not join the military anymore. And if something is not done, there will be two entirely separate medias. There will be no intersection between them at all. And if something is not done, I think there's going to be an implosion of Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York. They're not sustainable in the present. So yes, we're going to be in a very dangerous position unless we get a unifying type of administration in Congress.
Are you tired of the lies and the twist of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.